Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Eli Crane turns the screws on this ridiculous woke professor, and as it turns out, he has no idea what on earth he's talking about. Let's dive in.
Mr. Braddock, on March 24th, 2023, you were quoted in Business Insider saying, "If there is violence as a result of Trump's words, the former president will hide under a blanket of plausible deniability, saying that he never ordered anyone to become violent." Did you say that?
Probably.
My question is this. You are extremely critical of Republicans through what you call stochastic terrorism, inciting terrorism through volatile rhetoric, and what you deem as extremist rhetoric. But when Democrats incite violence, you seem to be a little bit silent. My colleague who just left, Dan Goldman, said Trump is dangerous to democracy and that he has to be eliminated. Did you speak out or criticize Mr. Goldman when he said that? We couldn't find anything.
I was never ever heard that quote.
Okay, how about this? Hold on.
Examples of when I did speak out.
Nor did you, when Maxine Waters said, tone down the rhetoric when she encountered protesters in Minnesota to get more confrontational, encouraging Democrats to confront Trump officials if they see them in public. Did you say anything about that one?
I did.
You did? Well, can you provide that for the committee, please?
During conferences and stuff, sure.
Yeah, can I have one more quick question? How about this one? President Biden on October 23rd, 2024, who said, "We got to lock him up," or that Trump was a threat to democracy right before numerous assassination attempts. Did you say anything about that one?
No, that wouldn't meet my threshold.
We got to lock him up? That doesn't reach your threshold?
No.
Do you believe that President Trump is a stochastic terrorist?
I believe he has been in the past.
Yeah? Why is that?
Typically, stochastic terrorism, if you want to offer a definition, is where an individual utters things that can be perceived by a reasonable person as a promotion of violence, if not outright incitement.
So you
And
think
there
that,
have been things that he's said.
so
that I
you think that
that
President Trump is trying to incite violence?
whether he wants to or not is immaterial. Stochastic terrorists typically don't need to be able to incite it on purpose or not. It's their words that are important.
Okay.
And if I could, on the record, I could say stochastic terrorism and stochastic terrorist is a terrible term. I've actually been trying to get rid of that term as something that describes this phenomena. I call it malicious provocation because that has to relate to...
But you've used that word a lot, haven't you?
Yeah, it's what we use in the
Okay.
field.
Do you think that our colleague, Congressman Goldman, with the statement I just read you, do you think he's one as well?
If I could see the context in which he
I
said it.
already read it to you.
You read the statement, but I need the context as well. Statements aren't...
Trump
made
is so
afterwards.
dangerous to democracy that he has to be eliminated. I'll read it for you again. Do you think that that's stochastic terrorism?
If you can tell me the context of when he said it.
I can't tell you the context of which you said it, but those are his words.
Context is important when people say things.
Yeah, so is partisanship, and I think that that's what we're seeing here today. And,
Is that...
yeah, exactly. And I'm gonna tell you this right now. This is why Americans have such a hard time with censorship coming from guys like you. They call balls and strikes only on one side of the aisle, and then they won't do it on the other side.
Would you like me to read on for the other side of the aisle?
Yeah, go for
I'd be
it.
happy to.
Yeah, okay, tell me who
We
on the
talked
other
about
side of the aisle?
Maxine Waters, which I have said in public statements to threat analysts, that counts as stochastic terrorism.
Yep.
Because the context in which she said it was already heightened aggression, so there's a bigger chance that people are going to engage in violence.
So you don't think that anybody would take Dan Goldman's statement that Trump is so dangerous to democracy that he has to be eliminated, and you don't think that that has the potential to incite violence? Are you serious?
I don't make judgments based on statements I haven't seen in the context in which they're said. Do you want another one from the left to make it feel better?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, when Chuck Schumer was on the steps of the I think it was Supreme Court near Roe versus Wade, in a very energetic crowd, and said these justices will reap a whirlwind. Does it make you feel better?
Gentleman's time is
Well,
expired.
it'd make me feel better if you could actually listen to the statement from Goldman and say the same thing, but
Gentleman's time is expired.
clearly you can't.
The audacity of this dude, and I get to wear multiple hats for this one, but the audacity of Dr. Braddock here to change the definition midway through this video, and then at the last second go, oh, well, here's some examples of left-wing stochastic terrorism. This is his definition, by the way. Essentially, for him, stochastic terrorism means that you are in a heightened, often angry state, and then your rhetoric can be, that anger can come out through your rhetoric and incite other people to potential violence. I'm sorry, I'm not buying that definition because that's not the definition. Hey, y'all. Here's the deal. Gold loves President Trump. Under Trump's first term, the price of gold soared 53%, and the price of silver jumped 51%. Since the start of the second term, gold has skyrocketed even higher, breaking records and even outperforming stocks. Here's what I like about precious metals like gold and silver. They have been used as a store of value for centuries. Governments can't easily manipulate it. They are used as hedges against market risk and, of course, against inflation. That's why I partnered with the amazing people over at GoldCo. GoldCo is an award-winning precious metals company. They are fans of this show, and they have helped millions of Americans just like y'all to purchase over $3 billion in gold and silver. Right now, you can get a free copy of their 2025 gold and silver kit. On top of that, you might also qualify for their amazing unlimited silver bonus offer. So don't wait on this. Go to politibrawlgold.com to learn more. That's politibrawlgold.com or call 855-644-GOLD. Okay, this is the definition, all right? This comes from the Encyclopedia Britannica, okay? Stochastic terrorism, the repeated use of hate speech or other vilifying, dehumanizing rhetoric by a political leader or other public figures that inspires one or more of the figure's supporters to commit crimes or other acts of violence against a targeted group, person, or community. Okay? That's a long way to say words make people do things. And that's technically the truth. Rhetoric has consequences. Rhetoric that you use, the words that come out of your mouth, simply put, communicate thoughts. Sometimes people completely misconstrue things. After all, someone, I think, read Catcher in the Rye and thought it was a good idea to assassinate John Lennon. Listen, literally anything can be used as proof positive to go out and incite something and do something terrible. Okay, that's a part of the terrible, ugly truth that is the human condition. And when someone believes in the idea of total depravity, that makes a whole lot more sense. But these leftists, these academics, for some reason, they are terrified of rhetoric being used to say, hey, someone's doing a terrible job and either needs to be put out of office, as in impeached. Someone has been breaking the law, they need to be locked up. Remember the lock her up chants? What was the point of saying lock her up when it came to Hillary Clinton? We knew she had committed crimes, or at least we're pretty sure. There's a long list of bodies that have been around the Hillary Clinton campaign. And by the way, I enjoy living, and I have no ties to Hillary Clinton. But the reality is, rhetoric has consequences. And when left-wing rhetoric, like what Dan Goldman had said right there, that we have to stop Donald Trump at all costs, that kind of evokes the idea that, if it's at all costs, then maybe one person should do something noble. But when it comes to normal life, when it comes to democracy, when it comes to politics as a whole, when you take that extra leap, there's no going back. A trust has been broken. A schism has formed. There is no way to bridge that gap without years and decades of work to try to re-grab that together. Remember, Donald Trump has survived 2 known assassination attempts, but when rhetoric is used inappropriately, that's when people start talking about stochastic terrorism. And I just have to ask, when this dude, Dr. Braddock, is out here talking about this topic, what I have to wonder is, why is that extra context necessary? We only get certain blurbs. We only get certain phrases. We only get certain quotes thrown at us every day. There is no way to sift through every piece of information. That's why people will tune into channels. That's why people trust the news. That's why people used to read newspapers. That way there was some level of trust that that information gets sifted properly. Well, guess what? That doesn't fully happen in the internet age, and instead of taking responsibility for part of that, their goal is to censor it. And Eli Crane is right to call this dude out. This dude, Dr. Braddock, wants some form of censorship. Now, he is not entirely this nincompoop of the left, okay? This dude is articulate, this dude has his own ideas, and even called out part of the left's own terrible rhetoric. But folks, believe me when I tell you, the rhetoric that you hear from your news, let me tell you, you go a couple of steps down. You go over to Blue Sky and just read what they have to say about Trump there. You go over to Reddit and read that. You go over to left-wing Twitter and you'll see that there's this constant hand-wringing and, will someone rid me of this meddlesome priest? By the way, great movie of Henry VIII and, let's see, Richard Burton becomes the Archduke of Canterbury. And what Peter O'Toole, one of my favorite actors, ends up doing to him in that film, he gets drunk one night and says, will someone rid me of this meddlesome priest? And some of his loyal knights pull out their swords, drunkenly go, yes, my lord. And they go up to the Archduke of Canterbury, and I think it's an Archduke. Maybe, I think that's the correct term. Man, correct me if I'm wrong down below. But that whole idea, that's what stochastic terrorism is supposed to look like. And what we're seeing from rhetoric from people like Maxine Waters and Dan Goldman, I'm sorry, it's in the same vein. Won't someone rid us of this meddlesome president? This is why I urge everyone to be careful. This is why I choose my words as carefully as I can, because I never want my words to be misconstrued in a way. I do not ever call for something like this to political opponents, because that is breaking a certain trust that's sacred between human beings, particularly those in a Western tradition. That, my friends, is what I think the real threat to democracy is. And it's worse on the left side than it is on the right. And Dr. Braddock here doesn't really want to admit that. And Eli Crane is right to call him out. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.